Welcome everyone. Today we will be discussing on result-based monitoring in this particular presentation. Yes, monitoring is required for improvement in all productivity issues as far as organization is concerned. So why not keep a proper monitoring and enhance the performance not only about the organization but also of the individual employees, those who are participating and are looking for an advancement in their career. So, result based monitoring is the topic of discussion. So, let us understand what we will be covering up. First, we will be talking about the introductions part, in which the importance of result based monitoring is to be verified, why it is required, what exactly is result based monitoring, traditional versus result based monitoring, as the case might be, the emergent result based monitoring that is in vague in practice as of today. And essentially, this particular presentation will comprises of the 10 steps to building a result based monitoring. Herein, I would love to let the audience of this particular video know that I am going to give you a template, but you need to skew that template to the requirement of your organization and to yourself. As in, it is generic in nature and will not be, it has to be adapted to the requirement, right? So here we go. Result based monitoring, as what exactly we'll talk about it. It provides a crucial information about the public sector performances, provides an optimum view on the status of the project and program, promotes credibility, public confidence by reporting the result of the program. Now, we have, what has happened is we have been working tirelessly for our last one quarter or last one fiscal. And at the end of the day, at the end of the performances, everybody wants to look to optimize their performances and they should be duly incentivized. Otherwise, probably there no one will be interested, or should I say motivated, to achieve a better performance thereby. So promotes credibility, public confidence by reporting on the result of the programs. It helps formulate and justify the budgets all together. This is what is done. We need to ensure that we are following the dictum as on when on basis. Remember, that is what we are looking for it. We should ensure that there are potential performances that takes care for, and we are working towards it. This is what we are working towards altogether. So yes, result-based monitoring will gives a crucial leads, a crucial indicators that we'll try to prove on or probably build upon it. Result-based monitoring will be focusing on the outcomes. You remember, I have two particular topics or two particular verbs that is very focused in this presentation. One is result and the other one is monitoring. So yes, we have to keep a focus on the outcomes. Outcomes is very pertinent for the individual, absolutely of an importance, vital importance for the organization. It should be provided on a regular fashion, frequent fashion, and it should be appraised. There should be a transparency when we are reporting it. So provides timely, frequent information to the staff, helps establish a key goals and outcome as the case might be, permits the managers to identify, take actions, and correct weaknesses thereby, supports the development of agenda that shifting its greater accountability for aid lending. Yes, result-based monitoring, what we call monitoring, is basically nothing but a continuous process of collecting, analyzing of information on key indicators and comparing the actual result to the expected result as the case might be. So yes, at the very beginning of the day, very beginning of the quarter or a fiscal or in your job, you have been led to believe that there are certain objectives, certain goals which are mandatory for you to achieve them at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the fiscal, whatever you look into it. So result-based monitoring is basically nothing but a continuous process of collecting and analyzing information on key indicators, comparing what we have decided earlier on and where we have actually received at a after a durations have passed by. So yes, result-based monitoring is all about the objects and the feasibility of achieving the objects or the actual result thereby. one of the agenda that I had clearly mentioned or stated out here is I will talk about the traditional comparisons and the result based comparison. How do we go across it? Comparison as far as traditional is concerned. There are three inputs. One is what you given. Next is the process that you comes around it, the activities about there, and the last one be your output. So what are we looking into the three aspects? The inputs, the processing of the activities, and the third part would be your output. Let us make a tweak around here. Out here, I would love to tell it to you. In the result-based monitoring system, we actually basically utilize the traditional methods as a base and build upon it. Actually build upon it. So it combines the traditional assessment of outcomes and impact. Also, it is dynamic in nature wherein it allows the organizations to modify, make adjustment to the theory of changes and or implementation process as the case might be. This is exactly what we are looking out here, the comparison, the traditional based and the result based. I hope this is very clear to you. Traditional is all about input and output, in between is a process. But if we can make the dynamics around it and we can make it pertinent and we can regulate it, we can have a proactive methods all to it. It's all about result based. So basically not input activities and output, but probably in the inputs, the quality of input, the milestone we are putting in out there, the activities or process we are putting n numbers of milestone out there. So this is the way we have putting in checks and balances, as in result based monitoring would be going across, and similarly would be the cases for your output. So yes, it allows organizations to modify, make adjustment to the theory of changes and the implementation process thereby. So let us understand what are the key types of monitoring. Now, let me tell it to you. There are basically four phases altogether. The idea is all about input from the bottom. It begins it. Look out here what comes around it. From inputs to the outcomes or output or the result that comes around it. Input is what the raw materials comes in, and probably therein this is the activity that comes around. This the bottom three would be all about implementations, activities, outputs, and then there are outcomes. Now, I do my result. I have given an input, come up with a process, and probably have come out with a product. This is what the output is all about. It. This is within the hands of the organization. But then people might be asking, what about outcomes and impact? Why is it happening around here? What is the result around here? Yes, the company might come up with a product. Whether the product is acceptable to the community or the society at large is to be found out, and that is what the outcome is all about it. Whether it has been outrightly accepted or outrightly rejected, that is the difference between outputs and outcomes as in result. And based on the acceptance of the results, we have an impact onto it. That is where we comes across it. In a result based monitoring, it is where the implementation monitoring strategies comes around it, both based on inputs, activities, and outputs. This is what the traditional method was all about it in the implementation set. And I have stated there should be milestone out here. And in result monitoring, it is outcomes and impact that comes around it. Yes, this is the key types of monitoring that needs to be taken care for every now and then as the case might be. So let us see about the performance indicator. Let us plan certain indicators. Again, I should mention that you have to adapt those indicators. I am stating a generic view to how to create an indicator. I will tell you the steps. I will tell you the basic outcomes that needs to be adhered to. You are the person who knows the organization. You are the person who knows the industry that you're working in. You are the person who knows the environment in which we are operating. So yes, the company, the industry, the environment has to be taken into consideration when we are forming our indicators all together. A variable that tracks the changes in development interventions or a show results relative to what was exactly planned. The cumulative evidence of the clusters of indicators is used to see if an initiative is making enough progress as the case might be. So the barriers to monitoring, how do we come across to the barriers to monitoring? Is there anything that is presenting itself as in an impediment towards the greater operation of the organization. So let us understand what are those impediments. If there are any, can we remove them? First and foremost is your fiscal resources, the money power, the capital that is required. Where are you accruing your capital from? Do you have sufficient amount of the sources of the capital accretion methods? What is it all about it? Then we need to speak to the environmental issues, as in the political will of the community. What are the ideologies, the values that the environment is espousing? Are they coinciding with the organization's values or not? If not, you will have impediments. You will have difficulties in implementing the overall objective of the organization. So lack of champion for the system, is that the issues? Is the vision not very clear, or is there been properly not been communicated to the society, the environment at large? So lack of outcome linked strategy or experiences. If we are coming up with a new products, new services, new methodologies, new processes, where people, community, society do not have an inkling of an idea as to what they are expecting, this is what is going to be an impediment. This will be detrimental to the procedures of the organization. So yes, these are the barriers to monitoring. And how do we confront these very barriers is what we will be talking out today. Let us understand the key questions. How does it comes around it? As in what, how we will predict successes in building a monitoring system. Does a clear mandate exist for monitoring at a national level? When I say national level, is a country that it is going around it. Is the provincial government at ease with the process of the organization? Are we having the willpower of the community, the support of the community, the support of the people in implementing the organizational uh, objectives? Are poverty reduction strategy papers, laws, regulation in place? Are we colliding with anything called the economics of the people, economics of the society? Are we colliding with the ecology principles, the environmental principles? Is it going to be detrimental in sources of impacts, environmental impacts is concerned? So these are the things that we need to understand. We need to mitigate if there are issues around it. Is there a presence of a strong leadership and support at the most senior level of the government? How reliable is the information that may be used for the policies? You need to tell me out here, how involved is the civil society as a partner with the government, building, tracking, and performance information, as the case might be? Are there pockets of innovation that can serve as a beginning of the practices or the pilot programs thereby? So let us tell you the last agenda that I wanted to cover in this particular presentation are the 10 steps. Did I say 10 steps to building a result-based monitoring system? Let us go around it. First and foremost, I want my audience to look in this particular chart. These are the 10 steps that we'll be discussing in the subsequent slides altogether. Yes, we are at first step. The step number one is conducting a readiness assessment. Are we ready as an organization? Do we have enough amount of capital? Do we have enough amount of willpower? Do we have enough amount of skill power? Do we have the requisite technology? Do we have the support of the political will, the community as such, and so on and so forth? So we need to do a readiness assessment, as the case might be. It is there. If so, we can move to the step number two. Step number two is agreeing to the outcomes to monitors and evaluate. Yes, what are the key takeaways that the project, that the organization, that the objectives are being set for? What are the outcomes that we're looking into it? So agreeing to an outcomes to monitor and evaluate. This is what we will be talking into it. Let us move to the step number three, is all about selecting the key indicators. Yes, this is a must thing that needs to be taken into consideration. Selecting key indicators, in case if you select the wrong indicator, not only it is going to cost you a lot of time, cost you a lot of effort, cost you a lot of capital, it is going to push or probably might be the reason for failing to achieve the desired objective. Selecting key indicators is very important. Let us understand the indicators, what is required. First and foremost thing, a specific variable that when tracked systematically over a period of time indicates progress or lack or otherwise. So if I say I am consuming, I am spending a few $1,000 every week, few $1,000 every week, is that going to give me an outcome, desired outcome? If not, that means I will end up spending few $100,000 before I realize that these were ill spent. These monies will never be recovered because these were not done in with due diligence. So please understand a specific variable, specific milestone, specificity that needs to be monitored, as which signifies the growth of the organization or achievement of the project thereby. So that is what we are looking as a result based monitoring is all about it. So for new monitoring system, all indicators has to be numerical. I am still saying it to you. Always follow the SMART dictum, SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Let comes to the qualitative indicators can come later. Yes, they can come later, not at the very beginning of the project or not at the very beginning of the organization. Qualitative indicators will ensure that when we have reached a mature stage, a maturity has been achieved both in terms of employees and the society at large. Indicators ask how we will know whether we are successful when we see it or not. That is what we are doing around it. If I am working, remember, if I am working and I don't see there is an addition in my bank balance, probably I am not working at all. We are not deciding on the right factor as the case might be. This needs to be ascertained. These are the indicators will tell me whether I am doing the right thing. If the bank balance gets on piling up, then it shows I am doing on the right path. Similarly for the organization. Nevertheless, I will show you the indicator development. This is the acronym for CREAM. If you follow CREAM, you'll get the cream of the best of the abilities of the organization and project. So what does CREAM stands for? C stands for clarity. It is all the clarity in terms of your objective growth. R is all about relevance with your values, with your ethos. When I say yours, it is the organization. It has to be clear, it has to be relevant. So then for cream, it comes an economic value of E. You should be always be having these practices of parity versus input and output. You cannot have more of an input and less of an output. This has to create an economic cognizable offense altogether. So basically, should be economizing your inputs vis-a-vis your output. So cream is clear, relevant, E for economic. Then what happens for A? A should be educate. It should be educate in terms of objective, in terms of growth, in terms of flexibility. There should be enough room for it to grow, for it to multiply. There should be enough flexibility so that we can accommodate a lot of viewpoints, a lot of suggestions per se. And last, cream, last alphabet is M. M is only for monitoring. It should be monitorable, as I say. I keep on saying about monitoring and monitorable, wherein we can ensure that we are sticking to the milestone. Remember, everything that can be measured can only be monitored. So have certain dictums which can be measured out here. If you follow these five principles, you can create your own indicators with respect to your company, your industry, and probably your environment that they agree with it. Again, I repeat, clear, relevant, economic, adequate, and monitorable. So let me give you a matrix also. Remember, this matrix I'm giving to you just for a theoretical aspect. It doesn't needs to be similarly for your front. It is an indicator that I've built around it. Indicators have been slotted and we can go around. as in whatever the indicator. It, people are very finicky with themselves to be very healthy, so they might be monitoring their blood pressure, they might be monitoring their heart rate and so on. So these are what? These are nothing but indicators as which shows how healthy or otherwise you are, whether there is enough amount of oxygen in your blood being circulated, if your heart is in a pinkiest of all condition, is it pumping in the right notions, is it working in the right notion, similarly for your blood pressure and so on, so now once you have designed those indicators, you also need to tell and state the data source, where are you recording it from, and that is what you look into it, which all recording process that comes around it. And similarly would be a data collection method. You know the source, you know the indicator that you have to record. Now you need to tell how it has been recorded, as in the collection methodologies there have been. Is it observer, is it through the machine, is it who is doing it, is it a human intervention that requires? If I say so, if I do a manual checkup of my, let's say, a blood pressure, I might have a differences of opinion vis-a-vis another three fellows who might do it on manually on me as a person with me. But then we can always have an average of those blood pressure counts, and that is what the data collection method would be telling me to you. So who actually will be taking those data? Frequency of data collection, should it be on a hourly basis, should it be at the end of day basis, should it be a weekly basis, end of week basis, and so on and so forth. Frequency of the data collections, I have already stated. Cost to collect data will also add to your operational efficiency. Difficulty in collecting the data, you need to make a note of it, mental note of it, which will help you in the longest of run. Who will analyze the data? Please ensure the person who is collecting the data is not analyzing the same, because then it might get marred. The overall efficiency might be compromised to a lot certain extent, and who will actually use the data. This is what we are looking into. So let us understand how to develop those indicators. First, I have been telling it to you time and again within this presentation. Develop your own indicators to meet your needs. Develop good indicators usually take more than one try. Yes, please understand, you at the very first go might think that these are the things that we will try to record. Believe me or not, it requires a continuous refinement. State all indicators neutrally, never increase nor decrease. Always be straightforward. And I keep on saying, always make a pilot study, pilot study, pilot study, pilot survey, pilot implementation before you roll out on the mass scale in the society or in the organization, as the case might be. Let us come to the step 4. It is all about gathering baseline data on the indicators. Once decided upon the indicators, we need to gather those data. You need to record this data. I have already stated how to make a template for data collection. Log notes can be made out of it. So baseline data sources are all about measurement to find out where are we today and where do we want to see ourselves tomorrow and day after thereby. So that is the baseline data that comes around it. The primary sources are gathered specifically for the project. These secondary sources are collected for another purpose, can save money, but be careful to ensure that it is truly the information you need, that it is what you are actually looking forward to it. Possible sources are written records. Yes, this is the method. These are the sources from where you can collect the data. The written records, probably on a paper or an electronic medium, or the machine that you are having it. How do you, what kind of tolerance that the machine has, and what are the reading habits that the machine produces thereby. You have the individual involved with the intervention, which will let you know. The general public will give you a very fine and precise data. The trained observers, you need not collate a hell number of data when you go to the general public. Yes, they will be the best sources of data, but it is an enormous data and takes a huge number in terms of duration, the time involved, and the cost involved. So trained observers can do the same thing at a fragment of a cost, the fragment of the time, and a fragment of an effort. Mechanical measurement and GIS, the geographical information system, that is nowadays being collated and been implemented on a regular basis. The possible sources. Let me give it to you the information, less structures and things like that. First might be focus groups, interviews, direct observation. Now, these are the various methods where you can actually collect your data from field visit, from MIS, reviews of the official record, community interviews, conversations and with concerned individuals, the consensus, the field experiment, the panel survey. You look what are the avenues that from where we can collect data, where we can record data, and each of these avenues have their own merits to go about it. These are proven directly and is in practice, and nobody will be able to dispute the same thing. So yes, step number 5 is planning of improvement for selecting a realistic target. Did I say that you should have a smart objective, a target which is really achievable on a real time basis? I can always say that yes, we should have a colony of human species on the moon, if not on the Mars. But is it possible in this fiscal year? Probably no. In next 20 years? Probably yes. In next 50 years? Most probably yes. In 100 years? Definitely it will be there. So that is what we are looking for, it being a very realistic target that comes around it. That is what we should aim for it. So identify expected results. How do we go out? First, we have the baseline indicators, and then we require what we are desiring for. If I say for the human species, there should be a colony on the moon. This year, probably not possible. Next 5 years, probably thinkable but not achievable. 20 years, most likely it can happen. 50 years, surely it should be happening. 100 years, it should definitely be there, out there in place. So there's a desired level, and that will actually tell me the level of input, the level of activities, the level of outputs. So we have a baseline indicators and the desired level of improvement, which will actually give me the target performances. And I've just given you an example of having a human colony on our satellite of this particular planet, the moon, as the case might be. Step number 6 is monitoring the result. It is basically marrying the actual result with the expected result of the standards versus the standards which you have set out at the very beginning of the task, and actuals what you've realized at the very end of the task. If they are coinciding, you are on the right track and doing stupendously well. If they are exceeding each other's, probably things are going wrong somewhere down the corner. So let us have the key types of monitoring. Again, the same system which we need to go around it. Remember, on the left hand side is all the traditional monitoring process comes around it. Monitoring about input actives and outputs, activities and output, is part of an implementation process in terms of traditional method. But when it is result based monitoring, these things have their own milestone in between: the quality of input, the number of activities, the quality and the number of outputs that we can come across with it. And the result, I have already narrated that differences between outputs and outcomes thereby. So let us figure out what is a successful monitoring system. Remember, to be successful, these 4 elements should always be present. One is that of ownership, as in you own it. Remember, I told you, I have given you the mantra to create your own indicators, but at the same time, I've said create your own indicators. I have given you a template. I have said create your own template, because as a person you will know your company much better than me. That is what is ownership is all about it. We will talk about the management, the maintenance and the credibility of the successful monitoring system, as the case might be. We come to the step number 7. It is all about evaluating the information that you have collected, wherever you are recording it, and how do you evaluate those information, how do you interpret this information, how do you utilize this information to come up with your reports. Evaluation means three things. Remember three things. One is all of strategy, whether we are doing the right things or not. Evaluating will tell it to you. Are we on the right path or not? The justification, the rationale, the clear theory of change that is there. Whether the next would be your operational part, whether we are doing things right. Mind you, the first one was where we are doing the right things and whether we are doing the things right. It is all about effectiveness and efficiency. It is all about satisfaction of your client, as the case might be, effectiveness in achieving the outcome, efficiency in optimizing the resources. This is what needs to be done. And the very third steps of evaluation is whether there are better ways to do things. Why is it? Is there any other things that we can benchmark ourselves to be? Can we improve the process? A case, a quest for continuous improvement is what we are looking into it. It is all about alternative best practices and the lessons learned. So we come to the fag end of the presentation with three more steps to go around it. Step number 8 is reporting the findings, as in whatever we have evaluated, whatever we have stated, whatever we have agreed as an outcome, whatever the implementation was all about it, whatever we have done it. So can and how are we presenting it? Presenting it to our clients, to our management, to our managers, to our supervisors, and ensuring whether we are doing the right things in the right way. We come into the step number 9. The penultimate steps is about using the findings. If we can better it out, if we can improve it, make an improvement, is the total quality management factor comes in. So let us have a strategies for sharing this information. It is, why do we share it? Because this will ensure that we have a powerful presence in the media as an organization, empowering the media, showing that ourselves to be a transparent organization, enacting the freedom of information legislation, instituting e-governance. As an e-government, everybody can access the process, and for sure add information on internal and external internet sites, publish annual budget reports. But nowadays there are companies who are publishing quarterly budget reports too, engaging the civil society and the citizen group, strengthening the legislative oversightness, strengthening the office of the auditors, and the case might be sharing and comparing result finding with the development partners, as the case out there is all about it. We come to the very last step of this particular measurement of monitoring. Remember, result-based monitoring, as the case might be, we are talking to sustaining the monitoring system within the organization and establishing it as a norm of operation. Absolutely, as a norm of an operation is what the last step is all about it. So critical component of crucial to sustaining is to create via the role of demand, responsibilities, trustworthiness, credibility, accountability, capacity, and incentives that comes into play every now and then. These are essential components for your sustainable components for monitoring, result-based monitoring. It is the demand of the legal entities, the demand of the shareholder, the demand of the employees, the demand of the management, you name it, that there has to be clarity in terms of roles and responsibility, the trustworthiness, the information, the credibility of the information, the accountability, the capacity, and the incentives, as the case might be. Before I part away, it is said by Aristotle, what are we? We are what we repeatedly do. We are nothing but what we do on a regular fashion, because then only excellence will not be an act, it will become a habit. And that is what we are looking into it for result-based monitoring. With this parting words, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching it.